It's going to show you solo 3 phase on the Titan, on the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, the final boss Persys, the Riven boss. For those who just want to see that, then skip to the timestamps. So with that, I can show you the mods, etc. So I explored this the other day on the Hunter. What's the best possible damage that you can do? The Warlock is obviously the best class to play on Persys, at least, because Well of Radiance does massive damage. Well, it's got a massive buff attached to it for that Riven. Kind of unfair if you ask me, but so we know the Warlock can solo 2 phase, that's fine. We know that the Hunter can solo 3 phase, potentially solo 2 phase. I haven't seen anyone do it, but I'll imagine there'll be something that you can do other than what I done the other day. But a couple of people asked for the Titan. What can you do some good damage on the Titan? The Titan's the worst class for Persys, right? Just because it hasn't got a lot of good high DPS supers apart from Thundercrash. The rest of them are Roman type supers that are really good, but they just take up too much time. And DPS is tight on this. You only have 23 seconds to DPS the Riven. So yesterday I used the exotic LMG Grand Overture, which is turning out to be one of the best guns in the game coming up. Like right now, it's like one of the best guns in the game to use. Alright? If it wasn't for the fact that linear fusion rifles were so good now, a lot of people would just be using Grand Overture with the way it is at the minute. So we'll be using that gun again. We're going to obviously have an arc subclass because Grand Overture's arc, so we'll take advantage of Font of Might by using Thundercrash, right? Class abilities Thruster, Seismic Strike, Storm Grenade. Aspects are Knockout, Touch of Thunder, Fragments are Spark of Shock, Magnitude, Resistance, and Ions. Resistance, Spark of Resistance is a big one. It helps you survive against the super guns easier. Weapon-wise, obviously because we can't use Witherhoard, because the classic loadout for this would be this. Witherhoard Hothead. Because Hothead hits so hard and the Field Prep Clown cartridge rolls so good for DPS because it's such a short window of time, but it means you can shoot 10 rockets. 8 to 10 rockets, because if you double rally rockets, you've got 10 rockets on the first phase, but other than that, it'd be 8, right? So it's really good, but I understand not everyone has it, so the alternative strat to still match DPS sort of with that is to run a kinetic GL with Grand Overture. It'll match the damage, if not sometimes do better than some other guy with the Hothead, depending if he misses a rocket. So the kinetic GL has spike grenades in it, obviously, and boss spec with auto and holster. The auto and holster is really important because it means I can refresh weak and clear halfway through the 23-second damage window. So auto and holster is a top pick. Any GL, I've got millions of GLs in my vault. I could have picked any one of them. There's no special reason why I have Militia's Birthright on other than why, because it was right here to quickly put on. I've got loads of GLs. I've got the ignition code, I've got all that stuff. So it doesn't matter which one, just as long as you've got a good, well-rolled one. That's it. Ikelos SMG, obviously because it synergizes with arc classes, with your arc subclass, and obviously the Grand Overture. The idea is that you get your 20 volleys already farmed up, so that when you start DPS, you can do 20 volleys and then get another 17 or 18, if you're lucky, 18 volleys at the back end of the DPS phase. When you've not got Curious the Fallen Star on, which obviously we're going to use for DPS, when you're not doing DPS, the rest of the fight, when you're doing it normally, should be just Heart of Inmost Light Storm Grenade setup, right? But when you swap, when you get to DPS, you do the swap to Curious the Fallen Star just before the boss opens up, just before the door opens up for DPS, you swap. Make sure your mods match so you don't mess up your build. But in terms of, this is our DPS mods, focusing heavily on that. Overcharge Wellmaker, Font of Might, High Energy Fire, Elemental Charge, Solo Operative, Weak and Clear. Right, now I do have access to Font of Might, so why haven't I ran more Font of Might? Well, the reason is you don't need to, right? Because I've got Overcharge Wellmaker to make 2 Arc Wells. Now, the thing about it is, every time you pick up another well, it refreshes that Font of Might timer. So technically, on paper, Overcharge Wellmaker makes Font of Might 20 seconds for free, as opposed to being 10, because one Font of Might will give you 10 seconds. But if you have 2 wells on the floor, on paper, you can get 20, but that's not always practical. You might need to pick up a well earlier than what you need to because the boss is pushing you and all that stuff. But at least I'm extending it longer than 10 seconds. Yeah? And the thing about it is, it stacks with high energy fire because that then means for the first 10 to 15 seconds of damage is gonna be really good because it's going to affect the volleys, because the damage from the weapon comes from the volleys, not so much the slug firing. The slug firing is really good. It's like Xenophage a little bit, but it's you need to make sure you've got a high buff for that. So that's why I have the high energy fire font of mine. I front load the damage for the first 15 seconds, and then the damage will tail off. But it's still enough for the free phase. I probably would have got the same results if I'd ran Overcharge Wellmaker, font of my elemental time dilation, and done it like that. Yeah, it still wouldn't cover the entire DPS phase of 23 seconds, but that's still another way of going around it. I'm just old fashioned. I still like to run ING Fire. If you've noticed, I still like to run it because there's no time on it. It is what it is. You pop it on and that's it. As long as you don't kill any odds, you've still got ING Fire 20% damage bonus, which stacks with Font of Might, which stacks with Solo Operative, which stacks with Weak and Clear. So that's the setup anyway. So just to explain a little bit more in detail, you'll get your fuses, you'll have a goblin already prepped, finishable. You'll finish that goblin once you've shot all your 5 fuses. You'll have 2 wells on the floor. Try not to pick up any until it's time to do so. You want to start with a debuff first, do your first 20 volleys, then just do a couple of slug rifle shots backing up into the second well to refresh arc weapon boost, Font of Might if you can, then Thundercrash, Storm Grenade, keep doing slug as much as possible. You've got to play aggressive with this, it's just how it is. The closer you are to the boss, the more DPS you'll do as well with the Grand Overture because of how it works. Just think about it, it's Warcliffe Coil, this weapon. It's Warcliffe Coil and Xenophage together. Right, so you can't stand like far back like you would with any other rocket. So that's why the void damage resistance and the concussive dampener will help you survive. Plus the overshield will help you survive when you do your super. So if you feel as though you're just about to die mid DPS, get your super in because you'll get that overshield. It protect you, let you do enough damage, and you want to get around about the R. I think it's the R. Yeah, just R or S, probably more S. If you can get on to S or R, then you're just about solo free phase at that point. I'll just rinse and repeat, obviously from there. It's the same deal. Like I say, some people could maybe position it even better with the wells. It just depends on where they pop out at and stuff, right? But it is really good, as I say, combining the high energy fire Font of Might like this at the start, just because it does so much damage with the volleys, right? I don't do a storm until the boss kind of stops, so you'll sit in that storm grenade because don't forget it's not tracking. But that was a solo free phase on a Titan for Persys. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.